Your goal was to become an Olympian.
Our guest in this episode is record-holding gymnast Zoya Yaseka Johnson.
And at 15, 16, I realized it's not gonna happen.
She reveals how she made her way back from the brink of suicide, having lost her opportunity to be an Olympic gymnast.
The best part about losing everything is now you have an opportunity to build something better.
While confronting a childhood traumatic secret.
I was molested for most of my childhood.
She talks love, forgiveness, and the power of purpose.
So what's your wish for the world?
Everyone would see themselves as a part of something greater than themselves.
I hope you find strength, courage, love, and peace from this episode. This is Life and Lemonade. Hi, my name is LEAH MARVILLE, and on paper, I've achieved many things that one would think should equate to success and happiness. But what if I told you that for many years, behind the facade of my life, I was carrying a deep pain? As I continue to search for my own truth, I will share the incredible stories of the people that cross my path, with the hope that you find inspiration, courage, and peace along your own journey. Life for sure will give you lemons, but we can always make lemonade. Welcome to another episode, guys. I am here with an amazing person, a friend, and someone I believe you guys will find extremely interesting. Zoya Yaseka Johnson, and she goes by Zoya Yaseka. And I think this episode is fun and it's special because, like all episodes, but I think it deals directly with the essence of what this entire show is about, which is mental health and awareness and wellness. Zoya is a gymnast, she's a model, actress, and coach. She lives in California here, and she is currently the gymnastics coach at Golden State Gym. She was born in Jamaica, 5 years old, left Jamaica with her family. She moved to Maryland, where she was introduced to gymnastics, and she became extraordinary gymnast and got herself a full ride athletic scholarship to the University of North Carolina, where she became one of the best vaulters in the history of the university. You were in the top 10 of bars and vaults in the history of the university. Like,
Yeah.
that is phenomenal, guys. I can't even run like back this all. You know what I mean? She's created and paired with her coaching a mental health and wellness sports resource called Prescription for Life. So essentially it pairs your mental health and your wellness with the sports of gymnastics, and it's a program that is intended to spread across all disciplines of sports, but she started with gymnastics because that is where her home has always been. So, Prescription for Life.
Yes.
What exactly is Prescription for Life as a wellness resource to coaching?
I think the short and sweet of it is the how of empowerment.
Right.
And I basically empower my students and my clients with their own understanding of love as their neutral position, and then we teach that neutral as a physically attainable point of balance. Right. So you teach that this is your home, basically.
Right.
This is the safest way to move through space, the most efficient way to move through space. And once you understand these two things, then you can add in the dynamics, which then comes with strength and flexibility conditioning in gymnastics. And in real time, spiritually and mentally, it is growing to trust yourself in what I teach love as, which is understanding mindfulness and patience. What I am proud of us for currently in the gymnastics world is we have come a long ways in paying attention to the mind body connection.
Right.
So there has been a lot of breakthrough in that area of like strengthening our athletes mentally. But the mistake I feel like we've made as an organization so far is excluding the spiritual aspect of connecting to yourself.
Right.
And so that's what Prescription for Life really brings in. It forces us to have that open, clear dialogue with ourselves.
And why do you
first.
think spirituality is important?
I think spirituality is important because that's how you gauge your neutral.
Right.
That it is stepping away from shunning emotional intelligence. It's cluing into our feelings and what our physical feelings mean to us on a both logical and emotional plane, and being able to make conscious decisions with our feelings as opposed to reacting to them.
Right.
And I mean, that's really the biggest thing.
So you train girls from as young as 5 years old to as old as 18.
Yes.
And they coming with their issues, right? So tell me some of the issues you see them, battling with, and then how do you apply Prescription for Life as a program to training, to coaching?
Okay.
In a practical way.
Okay. The most fundamental thing that I always have to do is establish our neutral, which is love. And so they understand very early on that in order for this relationship to work, there has to be reciprocation. It's not me forcing you to do anything. It is you making a conscious decision to be here and give me your greatest every turn you take and every day that you're in the gym. Okay, so we set standards basically.
Okay.
And then I would say the standard is that we're always coming from that place of understanding mindfulness and patience, first for ourselves and then for each other. And we're using that to basically beat back the fear. Because what is gymnastics but constantly and continuously overcoming the thought that you cannot do anything, right?
Yeah.
You, especially, and this is why I loved my upbringing so much, is the legacy that we were able to establish made me know for a fact that I could do these superhuman things.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So like right off the bat, fear is something that starts to tickle you.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like the fear says, I'm not entirely confident.
Right.
Because there's something missing. There's something not connecting.
Right.
Right? But go back to the fact that I'm teaching love as understanding mindfulness and patience.
Right.
That fear means there's a lack of understanding. That fear means I cannot see myself doing this thing. I cannot feel myself doing this thing. So I can't put myself there yet.
Right.
There's drills to get up to this point. There's strength to get up to this point. There's conditioning, flexibility, basics to get up to this point. But all that is to say, there is a logical way to get from the fear to that neutral of love.
And I guess when you do get there, fear becomes an indicator.
Yes.
So it's like, okay, well, this is what's happening inside of me, and then it becomes a motivating factor as opposed to a limiting.
Yeah, absolutely. My first client outside of the gymnastics world was a singer. She's actually one of my good friends now. She's amazing, right? And she basically set a physical goal.
Okay.
And we paralleled that physical goal to her journey of wanting to get back into the studio on a more consistent basis and like start basically moving towards actively pursuing her career as a singer.
Right.
And so, long story short, what we found along that journey of like strengthening her and making her flexible enough and, making her competent and confident enough to trust herself to do this handstand by herself, lots of fear just kept coming up, and it was literally manifesting in these exercises. So, like there was this one time I had her doing pike handstands off of something, and then she had to roll out of the handstand.
Right.
And I mean, it's a simple enough
Right.
ask.
Right.
But she kept thinking about hitting her head on whatever she was pushing off of.
Right.
And so logically, you're like, that's not going to happen. But
Right.
once fear sets in, you have to remember fear is an irrational emotion that's only causing you to respond to
Right.
your feelings.
Right.
And once you get to that space, you're not thinking logically anymore.
Were you able to like unearth where
Yes,
her fame was?
absolutely,
Fear
and
was
that's
stemming from?
yeah. So like as we kept working through it, and I was patient and I was mindful and I was understanding and I helped her solidify her understanding. Then she felt comfortable enough to say, hey, this reminded me of this time when I was a kid and I gashed my forehead because blah, blah, blah happened.
Right.
Okay, so that happened. So now that you know how to safely do this skill,
Right.
what can you tell me about what caused you to hit it then?
Right.
And what you can think about instead to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Right.
So even in that exchange, there's this trust that you're building with yourself.
Right.
You know, like
Yeah.
I trust myself to do these things.
Yeah.
You know?
Even for me, like, one of my fears growing up, and fear that has played out in everything in my life, stems from dance. And I only recently discovered that, like, you know, within the last year, that because of the competitive nature of dance and the fear of getting it wrong, I built up this kind of perfectionist thing around myself. So I wouldn't.
Crippling.
It becomes crippling. So I wouldn't allow myself to,
Try.
you know, to try for fear of failure, of not being perfect. And like, what is perfect? You know?
Exactly. You know what I tell my kids?
What?
So now they say, I'll be like, you're not perfect, but what? But we're perfectly made for our purpose. And like they'll say little things like that. You know what I mean?
Great.
Yeah, man. Or like, cause you're a what? A boss. You know what I mean? And they're these cute little munchkins with cheeks like, ah! It's
I'm
the best thing. Yeah.
No, that is so fantastic.
Yeah.
So tell me, why did you start Prescription for Life? Because I mean, you know, I've read all your credits. You had all these medals. You were the top in your university. You know, you had dreams of becoming an Olympian, and then essentially, you know, you're now on this path of being an entrepreneur and a model. You're living in LA, and you're pursuing. You know, you are no longer pursuing the Olympics.
Yeah.
So tell us about that transition.
My goal was the Olympics.
Right.
And then around like 15, 16, I realized I keep getting injured because I'm tall and I have all these growth related things. So let me like not destroy my body and just settle for a full ride.
So tell me about that. So life changed for you at 15.
That
16.
was like my whole world came crashing down.
Right.
I literally physically broke down in the middle of practice, you know? But it was kind of like one of those things where like, it felt like forever, but I feel like it was like maybe 1 minute of me just collapsing and bawling, crying, and then it was like I was up and it was like, okay, it's time to take another turn kind of deal. My coach took us to a Cirque show that fall, and I fell in love with Cirque and was like, this is my new dream.
Right.
You know, they make like, if you're like a headliner, you can make pretty good money.
Right.
So I was like, okay, I'm gonna be a headliner in Cirque. And I go to college and I sustain concussion number 7 and 8 and have to withdraw from school twice.
So by this time, and how old you were, like 16, you said?
So 16, then high school, college. I'm in college now.
Right.
Sophomore year, I got number 7. Junior year, going into senior year, I got number 8.
Wow.
Yeah.
8
concussions. Well, now it's 9 because I was training for American Ninja Warrior a few years ago and got another one. While I was training for my callbacks, I found out that I had short-term memory damage. And I was told by the doctor, like, I would basically be risking my life if I continued down that path. Yeah.
So your dream falls apart.
Yes, so do I.
So yeah, so what happens now? Because up until this point,
I was a gymnast.
yeah, that's how you've identified yourself. That is, it's, you know, you're like Zoya Gymnast Yaseka.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
what happens now?
Oh God, so what happens now is all the things that I was suppressing with gymnastics and being a really intelligent kid come up to the surface.
Right.
Because I essentially was using those things as a drug. I was
Right.
using those things to cope with the traumas of my childhood.
Right.
So I started having these panic attacks, and they're like affecting me and compounding those concussive symptoms.
Right.
So I'm spiraling. They send me to the sports doctor.
Mm-hmm.
The sports doctor, you know, sifts through it. We get to the root of the issue. The root of the issue is my childhood, basically.
Right.
So I have to face those things head on.
Right.
And start recognizing when I'm about to go into a state of panic.
Right.
What is the panic? You know, I feel like this because this.
Right.
This triggered this. It causes me to now be in a space where I'm constantly introspecting because I need to be able to maintain
Right.
a state of calm so I'm not setting myself off.
Right.
It's like a life or death thing at
Right.
that point, you know?
So at that point in your life, your identity is now redefined because you know, it's shattered.
Yes.
You're no longer on your path to Cirque, you're no longer on your path to being an Olympian, and you're not even sure if you're on your path to remaining a gymnast.
Yeah.
Right? So your
Everything's in
identity
question.
your identity falls apart
Yeah.
and then you find yourself in therapy.
Yes.
And it makes you realize that you've built your identity around gymnastics
Yeah.
because
Yes.
of your childhood
Yes,
trauma.
exactly. That's where I found
So-
value in myself.
Right.
So long story short, I was molested for most of my childhood,
Right.
and
Okay.
I know I say that very casually at this point.
Take a breath.
Let's take a beat, guys.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, clear
So,
violations.
and this is like how old?
Like 3, 4. I wasn't in America yet, so I couldn't have been more than those ages. But long story short, I was just taken advantage of. And I'm sitting there in my favorite nightie, looking out the window. It's a big full moon, I remember that. It's a huge full moon. And tears are just streaming down my little chubby cheeks. And however I would have said it at that age, I ask, you know, is this always gonna be my life?
Right.
And it's
This is
almost
after
like
the
yes,
act,
the act, yeah. And I just remember this feeling of like what I can describe now as love.
Right.
Like it just was like this bliss, this comfort, this like a hug almost
right.
washing
From-
over me.
right.
That's just kind of says no, you know, and gives me a little bit of nurture,
Right.
you know. And from that point on, I was like, you know, even if this is now,
Right.
I know I can get through it.
Right.
There's something in me that says I can, you
and,
know.
And this was you growing up in Jamaica.
Yeah.
In
This is
in
even
the
before I get
countryside.
to America.
Right.
Yeah. Mhm.
And by a family member or?
Yeah. That one was.
So it's multiple.
Yeah.
people.
There are multiple people.
And how long did this go on for in your life? How long was this sexual abuse for?
The last time I remember being taken advantage of or touched or anything was like 16. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But I mean, so that happened.
Right.
And I knew that I had it, but
Right.
it still was kind of like I was an angry kid, and like my
Right.
mom had to put me in karate to kind of
Right.
like calm that, and then
So
I had
that's
my
like-
sisters.
Right.
And when my sisters came along, I felt like I had a why for
For having to change.
not even for a why that would give me something bigger
Than yourself.
to go on. Exactly. Like
Right.
something that was always going to pull me out of whatever depression or
Right.
whatever I was in, because at the end of the day, I might not be able to do it anymore for myself, but I can definitely do it for you.
Did you ever
How I
tell
was
anyone?
pulling this. My favorite cousin was pretty much it, and we went through that together though, you know.
Right.
And then as we grew older, we found out that there were more of us. More of my cousins had the same thing happen to them, and then you find out their moms, my mom,
Right.
our grandmother, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's a generational thing. And then, you know, as I'm going through the therapy, I'm like, oh shit, like I'm the only one who's going to speak up about it.
Right.
So I do. And then you find out that, like, not everybody has your experience to be able to heal themselves
Right.
through their trauma. So even though you're bringing this new way of life, you don't have to be broken anymore, guys. Like, we can choose to be something else. We've been doing this destructive shit and we can just talk about it. No, bruh, you're doing too much.
So then, okay, you're so stupid. I can't believe it. Wow. So at this point in your life,
Yeah.
you are now you're facing yourself because
Yes.
you're no longer a gymnast. And now you're remembering this trauma and you're dealing with this trauma probably the first time in your life. So how does that contribute to who you became? Like, how did that shape losing all of that and discovering all of that within yourself? How did that shape your way forward?
So, like, this is gonna sound so cliche, but like in the doctor's office, I felt compelled to like write myself a note.
Right.
And the note basically was me saying, you know, when one door closes, another door opens.
Right.
And like, even though you weren't able to attain your Olympic dreams this way, now as a coach, you have the opportunity to attain it through hundreds, maybe thousands of other kids.
So you automatically
You know,
went to, okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to be a coach.
That's just, I automatically went to the next logical decision. I knew the intention for my life was do something big.
Right.
Bring back, give back
Right.
in a big way, however you can.
Right.
And at that point, I know what I can do is gymnastics.
Right.
And I'm a really technically strong coach.
Right.
And my athletes usually end up being like pretty freaking great. So, you know, like, let's see what we can do with it.
Right.
And then I started realizing that I couldn't coach these kids the way that I was coached.
Right.
And I realized that as I was healing myself, I was becoming a better coach because now I was getting to a point where I was taking a strong, hard look at who I am and why my kids were turning out the way they were turning out. And long story short, what I realized was, you know, I had to become the love I needed
Right.
at their ages,
Right.
you know,
So, okay.
in order to be the love they need.
So, and that is beautiful. And I, like, it's amazing that you are able to, you know, pivot. Because I think sometimes the most important thing is knowing in life is knowing how to pivot, is understanding and making peace with what life is
Yes.
giving you, and then understanding that it's okay to pivot because
Right.
you haven't built you
Yeah.
form a new identity,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
maybe, you know,
It is
it's
what it
okay
is.
to,
What are you going to do
to
about
change
it?
course.
Yeah.
But how do you, and I remember you telling me this as we were speaking, what were some of the tools that you applied to going from feeling to commit suicide, because you
Yeah.
said you were at that moment,
Mm-hmm.
to now, and to now being this motivated person to go in this new direction. And I know that time helps a lot of that, but if you could share with someone, you know, whoever's watching that may be in a space of that, like,
Yeah.
how do you, some of the tools?
Ultimately, what pulled me out was my why. My favorite cousin, like, I was going through that suicidal rant kind of with her after like a drunken night, and she asked me, what would your sisters do, basically? Like, if you were to take your life, what would Akela, Shalini, and Kalia do?
Right.
And me being faced with that question and realizing I could have a negative, heavily negative impact on their lives, that was enough for me.
Right.
That was enough for me to say, okay, you might be being a little bit dramatic. So just like, you know, let's just think about this for a second.
Well, now you feel like you
Yeah.
you have, as you say, something bigger.
Bigger.
You something bigger than yourself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, you know, that why, as I said before, was big enough for me to look past myself. and say, okay, who do I impact?
Right.
And what do I want to make sure I leave with them
Right.
before I actually do
Right.
pass on? You know what I mean? And what I knew I had to give was a tale of triumph. These things happened to me.
Right.
And
But
I
it's
was
not who
still
you are.
able to make a choice to be who I wanted to be.
Right.
You can make that choice too, and I want that for you. And whenever you feel like you can't, I want you to look into my eyes and see that I have been there and know that you got this too. You know, like in that moment, I knew I had to do the work.
I'm smiling, but this is like, it's hard. It's not easy, but it's so beautiful at the same time.
Yeah.
So what do you think your purpose is now?
My purpose is to be an example of empowerment in this world. My purpose is to alert anyone who sees their light in me to their greatest selves.
What does love mean to you?
I teach love as understanding, mindfulness, and patience.
Okay. And what about forgiveness? What does forgiveness mean?
Forgiveness is allowing yourself to choose that love, regardless of circumstance, situation. Forgiveness is relieving yourself of the burdens of expectation.
Right. Have you forgiven your?
I had to.
Yeah.
I had to.
Did you confront them?
I had to confront everybody. I had to confront my mother for not being able to make the same choice I did, which was like, be the love you needed. Who did you need when you were going through this stuff? And why can't you be that for me?
Right.
That was the qualm I had with her. And then when I realized, I had an experience that gave me the tools to heal myself, she did not. So if I want her to be healed, and if I want us to have a deep, connected relationship, then I have to start setting those standards for how we're going to build this relationship. I need to be open enough, vulnerable enough with her. And once I decided to do that, we were able to build again. But it's been a long and painful journey.
You speak about spirituality being a core part of Prescription for Life and also a part of your life. So what do you define as your spiritual practice, or what do you use to keep you very much grounded there?
So I would definitely say I'm not religious, I'm spiritual.
Right.
This whole process made me have to take a really hard look at why I was able to pull through. And, growing up, God is what I would classify that source of energy as. But now I just kind of stick with source because, what is God but what you've experienced? You know what I mean? Like, you cannot come to a real understanding of anything until you've experienced it for yourself, and then can take that experience and translate it to someone else.
Yeah, the biggest teacher in life is experience.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's why this programming is so profound, because paralleling that physical connection, that mind and body connection, with a real understanding of what that means for you spiritually is like...
And just understanding too that we're so much bigger than ourselves. Like, we grew up with this very limited way of viewing ourselves. We are our body, we're our parents, and then we are our outward experiences. So who we come in contact with, our parents and stuff like that. But we aren't taught from young to experience ourselves inwardly and then,
And then express.
upwardly.
Yeah, I love that.
That sounds like very, but
It's the truth.
Yeah, it's
As above,
essentially
so below.
so below.
Yeah.
Do you have any fears? Like, what's your biggest fear?
Regret.
Regret.
Regret is my biggest fear.
Regret of what?
Leaving here with any unfinished business, leaving here with any ounce of energy left to give, leaving here not feeling like I went for it.
And what is that? And I love that you say that, because my next thing is, what do you want to be remembered for?
I want to be remembered for a revolution in coaching, mentorship, and parenting.
Right.
I want to be remembered for being a light of empowerment. I feel like that is my greatest expression of love.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, I get to enlighten and elevate and create efficacy wherever I go. That's legacy. That's legend.
Right.
That's what I want.
Well, why is that important to you?
Because I believe the most important thing we can do with our lives is inspire other people to live their greatest lives.
What do you think is the biggest misconception about you?
Lots of people initially mistake my passion for angry black woman syndrome.
Oh my gosh, that I hear that so much
Yeah.
from black women, though. Actually,
Yeah.
a lot.
Like me being passionate and also confident in what I'm saying doesn't mean I'm angry. It just means I'm going to stand here and be direct with you.
Right.
I don't like passiveness.
Right.
I don't do well with it at all. I really don't. And so people
I just don't
serious,
do
I just
that.
don't do passive. So like when I'm forced into, and it's usually an authoritative thing.
Yeah.
I'm forced into a situation where I threaten that other person's authority.
Right.
And I'm usually not doing anything but being myself. You know, asking questions and not just taking a command. Asking questions about why and how it's, you know what I mean? If that person in authority is not sound in themselves, it's not a clashing, it's more of them attacking because they think I'm on the defensive, when in all actuality, like, no, bruh, like, this, I know this.
Right.
You know what I
This is
mean?
just-
Because usually what happens is they come around like, oh, I thought about what you said, and I understand, I get it now. It's like, okay.
So, what's your wish for the world?
My wish for the world is that everyone would see themselves as a part of something greater than themselves. For a generation of healed parents, coaches, and mentors to yield a generation of healed children who then go on to heal the world. That's my prescription for that.
That's beautiful. I mean, and it's that, honestly, truly, if we could visualize that, that would be fantastic. It would be a world where we take accountability for ourselves, and where relationships could actually flourish. Like, you actually have a good chance at truly, deeply connecting two souls together.
Yeah.
And wouldn't that be beautiful? Like, so what's the one thing about you, like a quirk that makes you human, that only somebody living with you would know?
I don't know. I feel like I like to color code my clothes.
What do you mean?
That's like my one OCD trait. Is
Color coding.
Yeah, like I like the yellows need to be over here, the oranges, it's pretty Roy G. Biv, except for jackets in one section, and jeans are different. Jeans are different.
Wow. So, but only your clothes. You don't color coordinate anything else.
No, I'm not OCD, except for in that one area.
Why though?
I don't know. I like it. I feel like a lot of people think I'm like a really free spirit.
Right.
And I am, if I have some kind of order
Right.
first.
There's some measure of balance. though,
Exactly. Like I have to know who I have to be in this situation, and then I can do this. But first, I gotta figure this out.
right? The color.
Yeah.
We gotta figure out the
Gotta
color.
figure out the color first.
All right. So what would you say to someone who is where you were at 16 when your life fell apart? What would you say to them right now at home?
The best part about losing everything is now you have an opportunity to build something better. Like, how are you going to take what you've already learned and apply it? This is not it.
This is not it.
There's more.
You didn't come this far to only come this far.
Exactly. It is what it is. What are you going to do about it?
Right. And that's a really tough thing to internalize in the moment.
Yeah.
Like when you are at your lowest and you're on your bedroom floor,
Ah,
and up just doesn't seem to exist.
yeah.
It's a hard thing to internalize, but
There's more.
you've been there.
I have been there.
I've been there.
Many a time.
And now we're here
And now we're
in this beautiful space. And
sunny California.
what is your dream for Prescription for Life?
My dream for Prescription for Life is that it will start to be implemented just across the world in any kind of athletic or educational setting. Anywhere that you can plant that seed of empowerment. I hope it is. I hope parents pick it up. I hope coaches pick it up. I hope.
Who? Tell me one specific. Who would you like to work with?
Who would I like to work with?
Yeah.
I mean, to be completely honest, I'm in the best situation ever. Like with Jamaica, we're getting to plant the seed in an organization.
Yeah.
That I feel so blessed for this opportunity to work with Jamaica in such a profound way and basically give us the opportunity to acknowledge where USA Gymnastics, which is the world's current powerhouse, where they went wrong and right those wrongs. It became a situation where it wasn't willing culture anymore. It was culture that created robots as opposed to, nurtured, talented human beings.
Yeah. As we wrap, we don't want to wrap, but as we wrap, 5 questions
Ooh.
that someone, using the PFL
Yes.
method,
Yes.
5 questions that someone should ask themselves at the
Okay.
very beginning.
First question. What does love mean to you?
What is
How would you like to express that love? What is your greatest expression of that love? And these can be the same, but once you find that greatest expression of that love, what are 2 words that complement that greatest expression that you want to embody in?
Right.
So those 3 become your words of embodiment.
Right.
Number 4 would be, what are your vehicles to express that love? And 5, what is the highest capacity at which you can then begin to live out that love and work towards the goals that will manifest the person, the places, and the circumstances to make it a reality.
Ooh. That's so good.
Yeah.
Y'all need to rewind and write that down and seriously answer that, because those are 5 good questions. Okay, so we have the 5 questions. What are 5 tools
Yes.
that they can use daily to bring themselves to center?
Breathe so that you can reset to your neutral.
Mm-hmm.
1. Acknowledge your neutral.
How do you do that?
So my neutral is love, and I
Okay.
I remind myself to reset to love
Okay.
by saying calm, confidence. When I feel calm,
Right.
I know that that is the manifestation of me trusting my ability.
Right.
Like, whenever I can come back to a place of calm, I can be understanding, I can be mindful, I can be patient.
Right.
So breathe so that you can reset to your neutral.
Mm-hmm.
So acknowledge
Deep
your
breath.
neutral.
Yeah.
Breathe so that you can reset to your neutral.
Mm-hmm.
Ask yourself, am I practicing love? So am I practicing understanding, mindfulness, and patience?
Mm-hmm.
And then ask your questions, like to come up with a positive solution
Right.
for whatever your situation is.
Right.
And either move towards something different
Right.
or seek to replicate whatever it is that's good.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. So you have 5 questions and 5 tools. That is amazing. And that is concise, simple, and powerful. That is powerful. If you do that, it for sure something will change.
Yeah.
Something will be different, or more, or expand. I have more words I can continue. It's amazing. Okay, so we've come to the end. I want to thank you with all of my heart because I truly brought my heart to this episode because it touched, it really does impact me. I think what your program is seeking to do is how I got here.
Wow.
But just not in a program
Yeah.
form. And so I think it is absolutely imperative. It's definitely a conversation to be had. I congratulate you for achieving everything that you've achieved. Your physical ability, your intelligence, I can't tell that you had 8 concussions, so we're gonna just wipe that out. You know, everything that you've achieved and that has brought you to this point to be able to create a program like this, I think is beautiful, and I cannot wait to see it implemented. And I cannot wait to see it in the Caribbean. We're both from the Caribbean.
Yeah.
So I'm from Barbados,
Jamaica.
And I think it's something our culture needs.
Yes.
It's
absolutely.
a conversation our culture needs to have.
Yeah.
We are very firm in our customs and our ways of life, and these types of conversations are, I would say, only now starting to happen. So it's very exciting. So if you could leave this space with anything that you want to say, whatever is on your heart, no question here, but just if you could leave our audience with anything, what would it be?
The world will be a better place once more of us decide to be the love we needed in order to be the love the world needs. That's it.
Wow. Yeah! So amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All I really want is a place I could come back. I can't understand where the love when we need that. Yeah, yeah. Guess all I really want is a home that have me back. You still got all of my love, I want you to know that.
This is Life and Lemonade.